Well, Razorback fans, we actually got a chance to hear from Sam Pittman. Had some interesting things to say, but did he say the right things? Let's talk about on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday. You have finally made it to the end of the week, and a lot of things that are going on in the sports world. I know here on this podcast, we've been covering a lot of it, especially with the transfer portal and some of the updates, which, man, it's hard to keep up with at this point in time. But the thing is that, as we talked about yesterday and the day before, we knew that Sam Pittman was going to be meeting with the media. And I even said yesterday on the podcast that the press conference that Sam Pittman was going to be holding is going to be the most important press conference he could ever have. I mean, it was going to be the one that he had to bring his A game, had to be at his peak performance in this type of situation because Arkansas fans are mad, they're upset, they're concerned, everything. And there's been a mass exodus out of this transfer portal. We all know that. So what did Sam Pittman have to say about this? What he had to say for himself when it comes to all the things going on within the portal and the guys that are leaving? Well, let's hear it from the man himself here in this clip as he opened up the press conference talking about some of the guys who ended up leaving from the program.
Been a lot of decision making. You know, the portal comes two different ways. It comes by guys wanting to explore opportunities to go play somewhere where maybe they're not able to play here. There's the first one. The other one is financially. Obviously, they want to explore what their opportunities may be somewhere else financially. And then us as a staff, we've got to make all those decisions on whether the financial asking price is what we determine the value of the player is. And if it is, then we try to keep them here. If it's not, then obviously we wish them well. And if it's strictly about the financial piece, then we know at that point we'd be out of it. I do want to be very specific here. We have money. Our donors have been very good financially to us. Revenue sharing coming up here in July. We have money. It's we're not losing these kids because we don't have money. We're losing them because what our value is to what maybe they can get elsewhere has been at times substantially different. We were a 6-6 football team, and we've got money, and so we need to use it wisely. We have 29 visits already set up coming out of the portal. What's hard, I think, probably on the fan base is that we know more about who's in the portal than probably anybody does, the availability of us getting them. And so basically it comes down to those two things, Tom. And if we weren't able to match what the number was out there nationally for somebody, then we were saying, hey, we believe that we can go get somebody as good or somebody or two somebodies for that amount of money.
All right, so that was Sam Pittman talking about a few things and a lot of stuff to break down from that one particular clip. The thing is that stood out to me the most is him saying, we have the money. We got plenty of money. It's there. It's there. It's there. And the guys that ended up leaving, it was, if it's about financial or whatever, they go into the portal and wish them nothing but the best of luck. But we feel like we're confident of what we could do in the portal when it comes to getting some of these other players. All of that stuff put together, however you want to take it, whatever you want to say about it. That's what Sam Pittman feels. I I get what he's saying, and it's good to hear, again, him give explanations. He didn't shy away from any questions. It's good to hear him give explanations. But my thing is, if there are certain players out there that you feel comfortable and confident that you could be able to keep them here at Arkansas or bring them into Arkansas, that would be at least just as good, if not better, than the guys you lost, I would totally be in favor of that, of saying, okay, yeah, if you have a player that's at a B plus level at Arkansas and he wanted $500,000 and you didn't give it to him, he entered into the portal, but then you have a B plus player or above in the transfer portal and they're only going to require $300,000, then yeah, like that makes sense. That's a decision that makes sense, and I don't think anybody would hate you for it or think you were wrong for it. However, some of these position players and some of these guys that you lost to the portal, it's just really hard for me to think that you're going to go into the portal and get some of those guys, especially when you're saying, oh, we're not going to spend that much money to keep those guys when we feel like we can go in there and get the portal guys. But the problem is those portal guys are still going to cost a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like if you think that you're, as a coaching staff, you're able to identify the diamonds in the rough that nobody else knows about or thinks about, and you'll be able to bring in these guys that nobody else is offering and nobody else is thinking about or giving them this much money, and you'll get them at a good rate. I just don't see that being the case at all in this situation. You could maybe say that about certain players, like Luke Hasz, for instance. Luke Hasz is a phenomenal tight end, a phenomenal player, but he didn't even get utilized this past year. So if he didn't get utilized this year, who's to say he gets utilized next year? So losing him, I mean, you don't want to, but losing him does not give this feeling of, man, the sky's falling or anything, because you didn't utilize him that much to begin with. So, there lies one issue. It's kind of the same thing with an Isaiah Satania. I really wanted him to come back, and I wish he was still a Razorback. But I believe that there might be some wide receivers out there that could be able to replace some of the production that he was able to put forth. The guys that I'm looking at are the Patrick Kutases of the world. Because I don't care what you say, Patrick Kutas in the transfer portal is one of the best players there. And I'd be hard-pressed to think that you can just go into the portal and get an offensive lineman that's just as good for a cheaper rate than Patrick Kutas. I just don't see that. Now, I know Kutas was probably going to end up at Ole Miss. I believe his girlfriend's at Ole Miss. I'd be hard-pressed to think he doesn't go to Ole Miss. But the NIL is going to play a factor into that. And so it's the same thing with any other player. If you got to get what you got to get. You got to get what you're worth. If somebody's willing to offer you more money, then hey, it is what it is. But if Arkansas had an opportunity to keep Patrick Kutas, if they just would have paid a little bit more, to me, that's somebody that's worth it. Because Patrick Kutas is a really, really good player. It's the same thing with like a Jaylon Braxton, for instance. Yeah, he may have wanted more money, but to me, if he was wanting more money, he's one of those players that might be worth holding on to. He might be worth keeping into the situation, keeping it in to Arkansas and keeping him on the roster if it means paying a little bit more. I'm not saying they're irreplaceable, but these are players that you want to at least have on the roster when you can. So I just don't know if I buy all of that, at least not at this point in time. Sam Pittman also, though, he was asked about a message to the fans. A lot of you fans, a lot of us have wanted this, of like, what's going to get better? How does it get better? Well, here's his message, Sam Pittman's message, at least, to the Razorback faithful, in case you were wondering.
Well, I think you're 100%. Hell, they're not the only ones that were in, because I'm the one and our staff having to make all the decisions on, and we're not stupid. We know if a guy like a Luke Hasz walks out the door, it's going to mean something. Hell, it meant something to us. It meant something to him too. It's very difficult for him and his family. But the decisions have to be about the team. It can't be about just the individual. It has to be about the team. So all I would say is All I would ask is that they just be patient over these next week and a half to see whom, if I can not bite off more I can chew. If we get out of the portal what I think we can get. And if we do, I think they'll be very excited about that.
So there you have it, Razorback fans. There is a message to you. Say, hey, if you do it this way, if you just be patient with them, see how it pulls out, see how it comes out, see what happens in this transfer portal, and see the type of players that they get. I'm serious about this. I'm willing to give Sam Pittman that chance. One, because we have no other option. He's the coach, so you got to. But two, if he's saying the things that are true, which I'm going to give him that benefit. If he's saying that they got plenty of money, if he's saying that they're going to be all right, if he's saying that they're going to go into the portal, and if he's saying that they're going to do this, then I am going to give him that opportunity to show it. The problem that I may end up having is if you're trying to do a Moneyball thing with this, trying to go in there and get a bunch of really good players on the cheap, and it just works out for you. Okay, in theory, that sounds good, but are you really going to believe that Sam Pittman and everybody involved in the staff is just really good, better than anybody else at scouting these players and be able to get them in there? I just don't think so. I just don't think that that's going to be the case right now. Again, it sounds good in theory, but I just don't know if that's going to be what everyone looks forward to and what everyone thinks is going to happen. But I guess we're going to find out here very soon as far as what this all looks like for Arkansas. But we'll talk about that and a lot more. Also, it's about Taylen Green making a final decision. We'll get to that and more. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, I got to tell you about Home Field Apparel. We know that we all love our Razorback apparel. It's the best apparel around, especially when you go all over the place. I saw so many people up there in the New York City area in Madison Square Garden for that basketball game. A lot of Razorback red, but I also saw a lot of slobber hogs. I saw a lot of hogs leaning on the A, running through the A, all of that. Well, you know where they got those apparel items? They got it from Home Field Apparel because they have so much vintage Razorback gear. You won't even be able to understand how much they have until you check them out at homefieldapparel.com. You can see it all, and they'll have it shipped to directly to your door. And for the holiday season, it's something you really need to get involved in and start taking advantage of because a lot of people, I guarantee you, want to have some of these awesome apparel gifts for the holiday season. So check them out today at homefieldapparel.com. You can use promo code PIG24, that's PIG24, and you'll be able to see all the different Razorback apparel that they have to offer. Again, the hog leaning on the A, the hog running through the A, all the cool logos, all the vintage logos, all the things for the Razorbacks at Home Field Apparel. So check them out today at homefieldapparel.com. We're also brought to you by the Game Time app. We know that all of us are going to be going to a lot of events here pretty much for the rest of our lives. Some of it be sporting events, whether it's Razorback football games, basketball games, baseball games, anything like that. Pro games, NBA, NFL, all of that. How about concerts? Those are pretty important. We all go to those. How about anything like comedy shows or theater shows? All of these things that require tickets, we need tickets. And we need to buy our tickets. So buy them through the Game Time app. It's the easiest app that you could possibly use, and it gets you the best deals guaranteed, or they will refund you and credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket anywhere else. It's that simple. They have the all-in pricing feature where you can turn that on. You can see all the great pricing that they have for you all up front, so that way there's no hidden fees or anything like that. You can also get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. You get to see the entire area of what your seat's going to look like before you end up purchasing it, so you know exactly what you're getting out of it. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time Picks app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So it was announced, I guess you could say officially, pretty much, that Taylen Green, Razorback quarterback from this past season, is going to be returning again. this was not a surprise. This was not something that just came out of the blue that Taylen Green was going to be coming back as the Razorback quarterback. But it was nice to see his official statement on it and kind of set it up in a graphic like most kids do these days on social media and saying, hey, I'm going to be back. Can't wait to run it back. It's going to be awesome. And people have certain reactions to this, which is fine. It's understandable. I get it. But here's my deal. I believe this is the best thing for Arkansas to get Taylen Green back. He's got to throw it to people. I get it. They got to get guys out of the portal for wide receivers and tight ends and all that. I get it. But to me, I believe getting Taylen Green to come back to Arkansas is the best thing that could possibly happen. And the reason being is because continuity is important at the quarterback position, but also the development and the upside of Taylen Green to me was really important. He wasn't perfect by any stretch. He had 9 interceptions. He only threw 13 touchdowns. But there were times you saw so much about him, so much of the upside about him. You can understand why Sam Pittman and Bobby Petrino wanted him on their offense, wanted him to be a part of the Razorback faithful. You saw a lot of that. And because of that fact, I think that it's going to be the best case scenario for him next season after a year of development in the spring. And also, everybody's always said about the Petrino offense is that it's about that year 2. If you can get whoever the quarterback is to come in year 2, that'll really make a difference for him, and he'll be big time once he gets that development. Okay, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'd like to see it. And I think that that's one of the bigger reasons why I like seeing this deal with Taylen Green and why it's keeping going and all of that. Interest, intrigue. I want to see what he does. I want to see how it goes. I want to see if it's going to be as good as what people have been led to believe or what people think that it could be. I want to see if Taylen Green can be that leader and can be that level of a quarterback during the spring development and during the fall camps and everything. I want to see if he can do that. And he obviously loves it here. He obviously has a lot of respect for the people around him, and people are really excited that he's back as far as teammates go. And that means something to me too, because I'm like, hey, if the teammates are all excited about it, then I should be excited about it. But still, it's going to be really fun to see how all of this plays out with him being back into the fold and into the mix and everything. So just imagine how all that's going to go. I wish I could. I got to see who he's got to throw it to first. They got to get people out of the portal, man. I know that they got a big offensive lineman, which, I know it's hard to talk about, but the McRoy kid from Oregon was a big-time get. Theoretically speaking, the only difference is he didn't play much at Oregon. They're the number 1 team in the country. So when you think that, he was a backup, didn't play much at Oregon. Well, he was a true freshman last year, and it's the number 1 team in the country. So how often are you going to see true freshmen offensive linemen play on the number 1 team in the country? I'm not trying to justify why he's going to be amazing. I don't know. But it's at least a good start with considering all the offensive linemen you've lost. So you got an offensive lineman there. You got Steven Diggs back, which was a huge get too. I thought for all season long, I thought he was a guy that was going to be moving on with his career. But no, he's actually somebody who's returning. So that was great to see. You just got to keep having these little small, tiny wins. And it'll build up. I think that that's honestly the best case scenario for Razorback fans right now is just building up into where you can have the smallest amount of wins that end up being like reeling them off in a row. And then suddenly at the end of the month of December or heading into spring ball, is everyone going to feel that it's just all going to be great? No, but you can at least gain some favor. You can at least gain some things in the right direction. You can at least make people feel better about it if you do these small, simple things. It comes down to that. So got to get that done. Got to get that done. All right, we'll talk about a little of the Razorback basketball side of things coming up next. So stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, I got to tell you about the number 1 sportsbook app. It is the greatest, FanDuel. You hear me talk about it all the time. You got to get ready to tackle all the action this year. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL.